My brothers and sisters in the Lord, August 9th, 1945, the United States dropped the atomic bomb on the city of Nagasaki. When it happened, my brothers and sisters, at first that was not the main target. The main target was an ammunitions plant. But because of the weather and the pilot could not see, they went to the second target, which was the city of Nagasaki. When they dropped the atomic bomb, they dropped it in an area that was the most Catholic population in all of Japan. And it was dropped less than 1 mile from the Cathedral of Nagasaki. Certainly, my dear friends, after the explosion, it was a disaster area. It was total chaos and total destruction. But sometime after, there was a priest, a monk, who was going through the rubble in that particular area. And as he went through the rubble, he came across the remains of the Cathedral of Nagasaki, blown to bits. But in the midst of the rubble, he found a statue, or at least the top half of a statue. It was the statue of the Blessed Virgin that was in the Cathedral of Nagasaki, that had been given to the cathedral many centuries earlier by the Christian missionaries. It was only the bust part of the statue. Mary's face was completely burned. The glass eyes had completely melted. But within the rubble, my brothers and sisters, where nothing else stood, where everything was completely destroyed, that image of our Blessed Mother remained. And until this day, if you go to the Cathedral of Nagasaki, you can see that image, that statue of Our Lady. I cannot pronounce it in Japanese, my friends, but the English translation is Bombed Mary. The statue of Bombed Mary sits in the Cathedral of Nagasaki because you see, my brothers and sisters, after it was found, that statue became a symbol of hope for the people, of hope in rebuilding, of hope in their lives. That the Lord and his mother, they were still with them, even in the midst of all of this tragedy and all of this destruction. And if you Google the image of Bombed Mary, my brothers and sisters, you will see an image of our Blessed Mother that brings about a great deal of compassion and a great deal of hope, even in the midst of destruction. My friends, today, as we celebrate the Assumption of our Blessed Mother, as we celebrate the fact, my brothers and sisters, that because of the merits of her Son, Mary has gone where we hope to follow, in the merits of the resurrection, body and soul to heaven. And you see, my brothers and sisters, where Mary has traveled, that is our hope as the people of God. It is our hope, my brothers and sisters, that no matter what we face in life, and all of us, my dear friends, can think of those instances and times, and maybe we're going through it right now, when the atomic bomb has been dropped in our lives. Whether it's our family life, or our work life, or our school life, whether it's problems with our marriages or finances, whatever it may be, my dear friends, we've all experienced the atomic bomb. We've all experienced the chaos and destruction that has come from the world in which we live. We've all experienced the unrest and the lack of peace, the lack of joy, the lack of fulfillment. But on this feast day, my brothers and sisters, on this solemnity, we celebrate the fact that we are a teleological people, which means we have an end. And our end, my dear friends, is not in this world, thanks be to God. Our end, my brothers and sisters, is with God in the joy of the kingdom, the eternal kingdom in heaven. And where Mary has gone, my dear friends, she who is the perfect disciple, we hope to follow. It's why that short gospel, my dear friends, that we heard proclaimed is so very powerful. As someone shouts out to Jesus, "Blessed is the womb who bore you and the breasts that fed you." And so, my dear friends, Mary is the Immaculata. It was in her immaculate womb that the Word became flesh and made its dwelling amongst us. But how does Jesus respond? Not as a negative statement towards his mother, but as a statement, my brothers and sisters, that raises all of us to Mary's calling. When he says, "Blessed are those who hear the word of God and observe it and respond to it." Because that's what Mary did, my brothers and sisters. When the angel Gabriel appeared to Mary and said, "You are going to bear a son and name him Jesus," even Mary had to ask, "Well, what do you mean? I've had no relations with a man." But how does Mary respond? She says, "I am the handmaid of the Lord. Let it be done unto me according to thy word." She hears the word of God, my brothers and sisters, and she observes it. She responds to it. She is faithful to it. And she does that throughout the course of her life in a very quiet and tranquil way. And that's why, my dear friends, she is, as St. Augustine would say, the perfect disciple. She is the icon of what it means to be a follower of Jesus. And so too, my dear friends, do we look to our Blessed Mother in those times in our life that we too need that instance of hope in the midst of the destruction of our life and our world and our society, in our own problems and trials and tribulations, in the chaos of our own life. You see, my dear friends, we too are called, like Mary, to hear the word of God, to be faithful to the word of God, to be obedient to the word of God, and to give a resounding yes to it. Can you imagine, my brothers and sisters, as Mary stood at the foot of the cross and she watched her son be crucified? Can you think of a better image, my brothers and sisters, to someone who heard the word of God, who responded to the will of God, and did so, my dear friends, in a trust that we can only hope to emulate in our own lives as followers of Jesus? A few years ago, I had the experience of being by the deathbed of a young man. Certainly, I've been at the deathbed of many individuals, my dear friends, but probably one of the most difficult ones or difficult times is when you're at the deathbed of a young person and their mother is present. Because no parent expects to have to bury a child. And I remember this woman. It doesn't matter if your child is 6 or 30 or 36, it doesn't matter. And her son was dying of cancer. 41 years old. And that woman, that mother, she was at that deathbed. And there was a lot of tears, and there was a lot of crying, and there was a lot of chaos, which is understandable from all the people in that room. But I still remember the image of that woman because she held her son's hand, and even with a little tear down her eye, she just prayed and she prayed and she prayed. And I remember asking her, after all that had occurred, after the funeral, I asked her about that experience. And she said to me, all I asked the Lord was to let me be like Mary, because she stood at the foot of the cross and watched her son die. My brothers and sisters, that woman taught me a great lesson in faith and in trust. My dear friends, as we celebrate the Assumption of Our Lady, may we have the same faith and trust that she had in the Word of God. And may we respond each and every day, my dear friends, in an obedient way to whatever the Lord asks of us. And in doing so, my dear friends, let us always hold on to hope that no matter what the atomic bomb may be in our life this day, we remember the words of Jesus, that nothing is impossible. As he says to the disciples, I am with you always, even until the end of the age. My dear friends, may we go forth from this church like our Blessed Mother, and may we have the same type of faith and trust and radiate the same type of hope that she had in her Son. Because you see, my dear friends, there's one thing I learned about our Blessed Mother many years ago. Like any good mother, Mary never points to herself. Mary always points to her Son. May we follow the example of Our Lady and walk in the footsteps of Jesus.